So Artaic is a company that makes custom tile mosaics, and we've applied technology towards the task, which traditionally has been very expensive, very time-consuming, very complicated, because you needed to have an artist, a fabricator, a shipper, and an installer. And we've kind of rolled all this together, and we're trying to accelerate mosaics. So I've picked for today, since it's spring, a design to work on, and so I'm just going to make a mosaic in real time. And if anybody has any questions or wants any clarification or has an idea, just raise your hand and we can integrate that into the design as I go. This is not a canned presentation, it's not a PowerPoint, so we can do this together in real time. So here's a picture of a butterfly. Everybody happy with that for a mosaic? This is just any bitmap. We can start with any bitmap. It could be an illustration that you've done in Illustrator. It could be a photograph. It could be a scan of an existing piece of art. We've scanned watercolors and oil paintings. We work with Stark Carpets. We scanned a piece of fabric. Any imagery can be turned into a bitmap, as I think we all know here. And this is a bitmap that we're going to start with. You might have a client who has an idea. I want to do this wall in my hotel lobby, and I'm thinking butterflies. So you could cook up a starting concept like this. And that's sort of step one, is pick a bitmap. Step two is pick your tile. So Artaic, we don't manufacture tile. Does anybody know a good tile manufacturer here? Nobody knows any good tile. Well, like Dow Tile. Has everybody heard of Dow Tile? They're the biggest tile manufacturer in the United States. Visaza, have you heard of them? They're an Italian firm. They make a beautiful glass tile. Sicius, New Ravenna. There are all these companies that make beautiful tile. We have created palettes of those tiles. So this is a tile that I'm going to use for this design. This is a glass tile that's 3/8 of an inch on a side. These are all the colors that are available from that manufacturer. They have a nice range, 85 colors in this line. This is a tile that spans into, these are the metallic ranges. This is a bit more of a tile with a bit more character. So what we do is we tend to pick a palette that we think will be appropriate for the job, and it could be stone, it could be ceramic, or it could be glass. This is glass, and it depends on the technical performance. If you say we have a project that needs to go in Boston outdoors with heavy foot traffic in the winter, we're not going to use a coconut or a leather tile, and there's actually not a lot of glass that will hold up, but a porcelain or a stone would. So we help kind of recommend the right tile for the job. So in this case, we've chosen this glass, and that's really what we need to get started. We have a source image and a palette. So we fire up Tessera. By the way, Tessera is available online. It's free. If you want it, you can have it. It's on our website. So we have two versions. This is our artist version, which I can send you the link for, and you can download it. It has the software. It's a Mac OS X app. We're not doing a PC version. We're going straight to the web. So the web version is here on our website, and you can design it now on the web yourself in real time. But I'm going to use sort of our Pro version, which is the desktop version, which is called Tessera. It looks a lot like the Adobe Creative Suite icons here because we've designed it to work within the Adobe Creative Suite. So I'm going to fire it up. Any questions so far? And this software is really designed, as I said, to work very closely with Photoshop. And it does all the things that Photoshop doesn't do well, and together they do mosaic very well. So we're going to give this project a name. Let's call it Butterfly. And we need to choose our source image and our palette, right? So I'll grab our source image. That was the butterfly. And our palette, which was this one. And let's give it a size. How about, I don't know, 6 feet? Sound good? That's about right. So let's make it 72 inches. There's some other specs here for grout size and tile size, but those are baked in once you pick the tile, so you don't have to worry about that. Then we get into sort of the artistic style that you want for the project. So this is the tile matching area, and we have various areas. We have various algorithms This is sort of a mathematical approach to applying the tiles to the source image. There's something called dither, which helps us blend the colors together. We can randomize it and do some other limitations on the palette, etc. These are the various algorithms we have now. You can get kind of a sharp look if you want a very sharp feel, or a soft feel if you want it to be a bit more abstract or impressionistic. You can get some very accurate ones, which are maybe a little bit less aesthetic, but accurate. For this demo, I'm just going to pick fastest because it's fast, and we're just doing a quick thing. It is a reasonable amount of computational power to do this process, so we don't want to sit here and wait for my old laptop to crunch it. Dither is what we use because tile is not manufactured in 24-bit color. If for a region of that butterfly where there might have been a blend of color from sort of an orange to a red, there might only be 8 colors available, and you'll get contouring as you transition from the orange to the red. You'll get these blotches of sort of orange, darker orange, really dark orange, light red to red. And dither will actually bleed those together, so it'll fool your eye into thinking it's a nice continuous gradient. So this, I'm going to add a fair amount of dither to this one, about 90. And if I randomize it, it helps it look more natural and handmade. I'm not going to use it here because our mosaic in this case is a rectangle, but empty tile key is what you can use if you need to fit a mosaic to a surface that's not a rectangle. So I'm going to show you at the end an installation, a video of a big mosaic. It was 3 stories tall, and the outline is really irregular, and there's a door in the middle, and there are electrical outlets. So we can punch those all out in advance, so when the tile arrives on site, everything will fit. So it's all prefab, which the commercial contractors love. They love installing that because there's no tile saw or fitting required. And with the transformation, we can limit which colors we use on the project. In this case, I'm just going to let Tessera pick any color it wants from the entire palette. Any questions about any of those sort of artistic choices? So then we pick our output. Now what Tessera does first and foremost is create a photorealistic rendering of what your mosaic is going to look like when it's built. So it actually creates a very high resolution bitmap of actual tiles, of photographs of tiles. And if we get super high quality, it'll be a huge file, like 50 megabytes. And again, on my laptop, I'm not going to make a huge file. So I'm just going to make this, let's just say 5,000 pixels across. So this isn't the tiles, this is just how many pixels to represent it in as a bitmap. It'll still end up being probably 7 or 10 megabyte, but and we'll still get enough resolution that you can see the tiles. And now we want to pick a grout color. Any suggestions for grout color for this? Any ideas? Going once? Blue? Okay, let's go for blue. So I'm going to pick a grout color here. Now, this tool right now, you can pick any color. It's 24-bit RGB. Grout only comes in certain colors from MyPay or Latticrete, for example. They have palettes. So we have a way to match. So you can only pick colors that are actually available as real grout. But here, you can pick anything. So we're going to pick a blue. Sorry?
Make it lighter towards the white with an arrow on the side.
You're better at this than I am. If you want to come up and do this one? I'll be totally honest with you, I'm not a Photoshop expert. I'm a mechanical engineer, so that's my disclaimer from the beginning. But I'll do my best here. So we'll pick kind of a bluish over here, maybe? Yeah. Okay. And let's see, we're gonna put this right on the desktop. That's fine. Okay. This is the last chance to change the parameters, so I'm just gonna do it. Okay, last chance. So here we go. So the software is now kind of crunching through algorithmically that source image and the palette folder of tile, and it's according to the parameters that we specified in our matching. It's doing its best the best it can to fit the tiles to the image. So, up here it would have picked white, but it's going to pick white, but the grout is going to come in as blue. And in here it's going to pick the tiles that have that orangey red color, and there it is. So let's zoom in on that. So these are photographs of real tiles, and some of the tiles have a bit more character to them than others. There's a metallics and vitreous in this mix. And you can really do anything with this bitmap. If you're working on a proposal for a client, you can lay it into Revit as a texture and put it in a 3D model and have your client walk through the model and see this mosaic on the wall of the floor. You can print it up, a nice glossy thing to give out as a proposal on paper. We can also manufacture tear-offs or samples, so if the client isn't quite sure, we can manufacture a square foot, show them the real tile, make sure that it's the right thing. So that's the idea here, is just to get photorealistic accuracy, so you can really get a good sense of what this mosaic will look like when it's made. We go back to those tiles. You might recognize some of these. I think there were some oranges from over here in there. I think we used some of those. I know we used some of these oranges here. That one. And we used a lot of the whites, and we used some of the black in there. So that's kind of the first step, is using Tessera, the software tool, to algorithmically kind of make a first guess at what your mosaic should look like. But we're the first to admit that a computer doesn't make true art. You still need an artist or a designer to work on this. So that's where the Photoshop part comes in. This is kind of the heavy lifting to get you started. So let's say we look at that and go, I like it, but this area up here is kind of empty. There's nothing going on over there. I want another butterfly over there. And by the way, I like the blue grout, but it doesn't look so good with the white tile. So let's make that white tile with the butterfly on the right. Does that sound reasonable? So let's. So when we process the image, we created a folder on the desktop that is called Butterfly, and it has a couple of things in here. It has a palette and a worksheet. So we open those in Photoshop. There it is. So the palette is how you make sure you keep working with tile colors that are actually available as colors. Because again, Photoshop can work in infinite, or 24 bits of color. If you pick a new color that there's no tile made, Tessera will have a hard time thinking about that. So by importing the palette of actual tiles available, you can use the eyedropper essentially and assign colors that actually exist in tile. That's what the palette image is for. And then this is the okay. So this is our file that we can work with. So let's start by changing the color. So we'll use the selector over here, and we'll use the eyedropper. I think I had already done this. Does anybody want to pick a color? I'll do it blue otherwise. Everybody must be tired. It's the end of the, or a bit after. So I'm going to pick, I don't know, I'll pick a slightly darker blue. And then I'll use the fill bucket to fill. So okay, we just changed our background. Now if you want, you could do the gradient in here to make it a little bit less regular. You can sprinkle it in. Now I'm going to make a copy of the butterfly from the other side. So let's see, let's use the magic wand. Pick that. We'll select the inverse. Then we'll copy it. We'll paste it. And now I'm going to paste. And then I'm just going to drag that over here. Let's make it a little bit, a little smaller. Maybe I'll invert it. Everybody happy with that? Is that all right? Maybe a little bigger. Well, you know, this is just a quick demo, but you get the idea. Anything you can do in Photoshop, you can do with this tool. So that's, we just modified our working file. We changed the background color. We added another butterfly. So I'm going to save that. And I'll put it right back in the working folder, and I'll call it, I'll call it copy. I'll just call it blue. Let's save that. Doesn't matter if you interlace it or not. So now we've exported that work file back into our working folder, and now we go back to Tessera. And this time, instead of making it a new mosaic, we're going to make it edit an existing mosaic. And we're going to pick, let's give it a new name, so we can keep the old version in case we want to go back to it. And we're going to pick a different source image. So this was the blue one. But we're going to keep everything else the same. If you want, you can adjust it, but we're going to keep it the same dimensions here. And we'll keep all the matching parameters the same. Not that you have to. Output everything the same. So now we'll just do it again. So what it's doing is it's now taking that source image with the blue background and reassigning the tiles to it. So we can get that photorealistic output that you can show to a client. Any questions while it thinks? Yeah, we use JPEG or PNG. It's not that we have to. We could do other formats. We like PNG because it's the best compression without it getting lossy. JPEG compression is a lossy compression, and since tiles have very sharp edges, whenever you JPEG something that's got sharp edges, it looks horrible. Like text. Have you ever tried JPEGing like a page with black letters on it? It bleeds. It's horrible. So we often will take, someone will give us a JPEG, we'll work with it, but we try to work in Tessera and Photoshop with PNG. It's a very efficient, loss-less compression. So we just, Tessera went through that and reprocessed it, and now we zoom in and we see, you know, the mosaic with the blue background. And the other butterfly was over here. There we go. Ta-da! Okay. So this is where you go through iterations of this with the client to kind of converge on the piece of art that's called for the project, and then the question is, well, how do you make these things? So that's what we take care of. And let me show you the kind of the inner workings briefly of our command file. So, I mean, everybody here is familiar with using Word or Excel to design a document, and you hit the print button, it gets sent to your printer in EPS format. People, that's the kind of the background format. That's a format that communicates from Office or any design tool or software tool into printer language. We have our own printer language, and first we have this stats file. So this file, sorry if the text is really tiny. I can make it larger. Okay, there we go. That's the first time I've done that. So this tells us about the project. This is what you can use with the client or with the contractor for the installation. It tells us the exact size of the project in inches, width and height. The size in the output image is so many pixels. Remember, we selected about 5,000 pixels across. It tells exactly how many tiles the dimensions are of actual glass tile in this case. So that design that we did was 6 feet, right? So that's 166 tiles across and 98 tiles tall. That was more of a landscape kind of format. And it tells us about the size of the tile, 0.41 inches, 3/8 of an inch, and the grout size. And this project gets chopped up into 1 square foot sections by the software for manufacturing. And it tells how many sections are. There are a total of 27 sections that will go into a box and get shipped to the installation site. And then it tells us what tile to order for the project. That's what all this is. So this project, we used 1,259 tiles of color G000. And these are all the colors that were in that palette. There were 85 colors in that palette. And so there's a list here of 85 colors available. But the software in this case, or after we worked with it in Photoshop, did not use all the colors. You know, we didn't use green on the thing, right? So some of these tiles go empty, like all this. But this tells us exactly to the tile how to make that mosaic in terms of bill of materials. And that's what we use to order the tile. And then, when we get the tile from the manufacturer, we send this file to the robot. So this is blocks and blocks of code that tell the robot where to put what tiles. Don't look at it too closely or you'll affect your vision. But it's like an EPS file. You know, it's gibberish, but it's machine code. And what it does is it sends to the robot, it tells you of each color what's necessary. So the first color, say, is blue. And so it tells us we need 7 pounds of blue for this project, or 4 pounds of blue, or 40 pounds of blue. And we load the tile in loose into this hopper. It gets inspected. I'm going to pause this so I can explain it. The hopper individualizes each tile onto a conveyor belt, and then it goes under a digital camera which takes a photo of each and every tile as it passes down a conveyor belt, and it qualifies the tile for geometry and color. So if the tile has a big chip in it, or it's cracked, or the color is wrong, it'll get rejected. And then so only good tile goes down into the robot. And then this is the robot actually placing tile into a section. So the robot works, it does about a tile every second at a sustained rate. And you see it's picking, placing, picking, placing, picking, placing. And it just knows from that fancy command file what color goes where across a huge project. That's sort of in a nutshell the assembly process. So bowl, inspection, and pick and place. And the robot, currently we can load 60 colors at a time. So right there, if you look here, those are all the colors of tile in little like Pez dispensers ready to be picked up. And there's 60 of them across. And we're about to scale to 180 colors. And there actually aren't, we don't know of a manufacturer that makes any line with more than 180 colors. So that should cover the whole spectrum. Yep. So when a section is done, meaning that grid is filled, we put a clear polymer on the top surface of the tile and a sticky label that tells where in the mosaic that sheet goes. And then we box those up and ship them to the work site, as I said. And so they come out of the box and it is a sheet of tile and it says row 0, column 0. And you put that in the top left corner. And then you pick out the next sheet and it's row 0, column 1. And you put that up. And it's very standard. You know, it's the same tile. It's the same adhesives and grouts that are available, like Laticrete or Maipe. And overall, the installation is identical to any typical tile installation. So installers love this because they're familiar with how to install it, but it's already pre-cut, you know, and it's pre-fitted. So they usually get quotes back that are lower than, you know, kind of comparable, kind of off-the-shelf tile project. And I have one more video, and then we're done. So this is an installation we did in August in New York. This is a good-sized commercial project. This was a commercial office building in New York. It's 460 square feet of mosaic. It's an 80,000 square foot office building, and they were renovating. Let's see if I get all this. So there, that goes. So that's being installed sheet by sheet. And I don't know if you can make out the tiny little white dots, but that's the label on each of the 1 square foot sheets. So that project overall is about, right about there, I think it was about 24 square feet wide. And the whole height is about 3.5 stories tall. It used up 387,271 tiles. And there was no cutting on site. And all the sheets fit. We aligned it with a laser, and we fit it to better than 1 millimeter of accuracy around this door, right bottom. It's hard to see, but there's a door down here. So we designed the whole mosaic to fit around that door and expand from there. And there's a business right down here. This is a big medical clinic, and they were open the whole time. They never had to stop business, or we never disrupted them. This went in 9 days with about 1.5 people of labor. And the entire footprint for the installation was the width of that scissor jack, scissor lift, which is about 4 feet by 12 feet. So we didn't have to lay the whole thing out on the floor and get all the fit right. So the disruption on the operating business of that building was very minimal. That's it. We do a few more minutes if anybody has a question, or I could do a design in real time if somebody has something they'd like to do.